how much breathing room do you have? The top three in the championship split by just 8 points overall, but for the first time, Martin Yankov with a 6-point margin at the top, knowing that it is going to take the double points round at the end of the season to most likely claw back those points for Nikolai Mikov and Rostislav Koshev. But GT3 AM might just be the most interesting championship out there right now. You've got 5 drivers split by 8 championship points. You've got the top 6 split by 17. And you look around, it's Bozdar Andreev on top, but you've still got Ivo Serafimov, Joris Ohms, Roy Viveka, and Maxim Dimitrov all in with a shout as far as the GT3 AM Championship goes. My name's Jake Sperry here. This is the SimGear GT Masters for 2025, and we do sit here at the Circuit of the Americas getting ourselves set and ready for racing action. Qualifying will be coming up in the next about 3.5 minutes time, leading over to 1 hour's worth of racing that we get ourselves situated with. And of course, here on Pitlane.TV, we watch this SimGear GT Masters with a lot of reverie at this moment, knowing that this is going to be a strong championship to keep in mind, and there is a lot to try and dissect and undo for some drivers, and a lot to try and get back for others as they look to make their championship efforts known well into the second half of this season. And a Circuit of the Americas track, which is 5.52 kilometers in length, that first broke ground in 2012 for racing action, and a circuit that has been very much a case of some people like it and some people absolutely hate it. Here at the Circuit of the Americas, it has a little bit of everything in terms of its design. The very tricky opening sector of the lap, where you have a mock-up SS section of Maggots and Beckett's going through turns 3, 4, 5, and then into 6, up over the top of the crest at turns 8, 9, and 10. And then the long overtaking opportunity that will present itself today at turn number 12. The arena section from turns 13 over to turns 16, 17, and 18 around the observatory deck as they go through the long triple right. And then those 2 final corners, 19 and 20, the Andretti, that leads back up to that long, iconic climb along Big Red, which is turn number 1 out there on track. But as we focus here around with some of these drivers, Maxim Dimitrov speaks to mind at the moment with the number 62 machine. It's about opportunities now after what was a big Type B race that we sat with one race meeting ago. Would have been a couple weeks ago now that we ran ourselves into that battleground. But I think that when these teams and when these drivers look at what they've been able to do, where they've been looking to put the challenges on, Mugello has proven to be a case there from the wet to the dry of a circuit that brought a little something that a lot of drivers weren't necessarily expecting. We've still got 2 rounds after this, of course. Road Atlanta, which will feel very much like a bull ring by comparison to the Circuit of the Americas. And then, of course, the Circuit de la Sarthe to end the championship outright. I'm sure we're going to be in for a really, really strong showing of racing here from this incredible racetrack here, the Circuit of the Americas, based in Austin, Texas. And as we do, everything does sometimes get a little bit bigger in Texas. Ivo Serafimov, a driver who is looking for a bounce back here today from racing action in the Acura, which did not go his way 1 round ago at Mugello. And I'm sure that a lot of drivers are thinking that this is about consolidation and holding their points in the right place and getting themselves that opportunity. If you are here for the first time with us with the SimGear GT Masters, hello, how are you doing? Welcome on in. Give yourself a chance to like, share, subscribe, join as a member. We are not that far away here from 100,000 subscribers, so make sure that you jump on in and give everything you can. A like as well will help push this out a long way for more championship action as the checkered flag now reigns itself supreme here in practice, which means qualifying will begin. It's a 35-minute session, but there are a few intricacies around qualifying. The first and foremost being they split up into each of the 3 different categories here today. So it starts off with the GT4s getting their first 11 minutes out there in session. It then follows the next 11 minutes, which goes for GT3 AM, and then 13 minutes available for those in GT3 Pro. Alexander Nikolov Jr. will be very happy with what happened to him one race meeting ago, picking up the win in the category and looking to try and close down in on points. Still stuck about 36 points back on Martin Yankov as things stand. So certainly is looking to try and just put the points together on the board. But Martin Yankov, 6 points clear of Nikolai Mikov, 8 points clear of Rosti Koshev. And so those sorts of drivers are thinking about how they can gather up and gain points. You can never count Alex Stefanov out of the championship either. We'll very much need the double points to fall into his favor to recover back up in the championship. We can see there on screen in the BWT McLaren right now, also chasing down the Castron McLaren there of Valentin Stemenkov, who has had a couple of issues here and there over the course of the season so far and is looking to just try and find a good race result, just pulling off of the way to avoid really any dramas. There is the Porsche Cayman of Nikolai Mikov, who has been, I think, possibly one of the quietest drivers out there over the course of this season. I don't think he's been someone who has shown the ultimate pace to challenge the likes of Stefanov and Yankov and Koshev and Nikolov, but I do think that Nikolai Mikov has done a great job of picking up the pieces where it's gone wrong for other drivers over the course of these rounds, and so that's where Mikov's points come in, not by being aggressive, but by more rather being consistent, and consistency does pay in a long championship. As we focus then on the 2 teammates, Koshev and Skelton. Skelton giving a little bit of a gap then to his Mercedes teammate there running the AMG Mercedes GT4 out on track. And really, we do see a lot of differences in terms of what cars are used here in the GT4 category. Is never truly a consensus pick out there. Martin Yankov, for example, loving the BMW out there, but we've got a lot of McLarens out there. We've even got an Aston Martin Vantage, which is in play too. And that, of course, is going to be all in Malinov, finding himself out there on track. But as we get ourselves set, these qualifying laps now begin up the top of the hill towards Big Red, a massive entry apex into this corner, which narrows up naturally on the exit and back down the hill in toward turn number 2 out on circuit. Now comes the tricky section. The S's at 200 kilometers an hour. Hit the brakes. 155 down to 130, and now starting to build it. 130 blowing down to about 120 going through turn 6, and then turn 7 juts back like a swift right hook as you go on through. Turns 8 and 9 then follow up the top of the crest, waiting for the power to be applied down, and then descending back down the hill over towards turn number 10 out on circuit. Again, another wide apex entry, inviting drivers in to go and make overtakes, inviting the big lunge down the inside, but also you get this long backstretch that lisks over to the right as you take it, so it's never truly straight, and it also has 2 bumps, 2 crests and dips in the run over towards turn number 12, and so when you hit the brakes and you try and get yourself another inviting apex to go through, very often you find drivers overcooking and running wide through this corner, but you have to be very resolute as Alex Stefanov has first and third sectors currently lighting purple through the arena. These switch back rights as we go to Alex Stefanov now and take this look at turn 13 here. This fast right-hander for some, but it's going to be a little bit slower for these drivers. They look to try and tiptoe with the momentum. This, I would say, short shoot section over to turn 15, where you can take contrasting lines. You can take the big wide line to attack the exit, or the lower line out there, the more aggressive line to try and just cover off the run. This triple right then soon follows of 16, 17, and turns 18 out on circuit, where you do need all of the grip. The car gets very loaded, and then turn 19, which is one of the most committed corners and one of the easiest corners to run off wide on the exit, and a lot of drivers do tend to run wide when they come to that section. Final corner, slightly missed apex there at turn 20, sometimes known as the Andretti here at the Circuit of the Americas, but it is a good lap from Alex Stefanov there of a 2:16.5, a full 9/10 of a second clear of Nikolai Mikov's time in the Porsche. So the McLaren currently on top from Porsche, from Aston Martin, and Martin Yankov only a 2:19.4 then for an opening lap. Can only manage 4th position as things go. So a full 2.8 seconds adrift in qualifying. That would indicate to me that this is a starter lap, so to speak, which will now allow for opportunities to build and develop and to gain some more pace. It's going to be there. Robin Skelton moving up now into 4th position, 2.5 seconds off the pace on a 2:19.1. And so long laps here means there isn't that much time to go and get the time together. It's going to be a very, very tall ordeal for drivers to go and find that momentum that is set for them. And they are running, of course, in what are known as fixed conditions out there here today. So there isn't going to be that time dilation that you normally get. They run a fixed setting time with a fixed track condition, with a fixed temperature out there, and it's hot. It's 46 degrees. The sun baking down here on this Texas asphalt, which they have out on circuit. And that's going to be causing quite a bit of understeer for a number of these drivers who are going to have a very slippery, a very greasy track to try and get some running done on. And as we focus then through the corner, Alexander Nikolov Jr. with the fastest first sector of anybody so far in the purple. But for the moment, looking to try and gain a bit more. Green in Sector 2, green in Sector 3, looking at Sector 4 as successful in through turn number 19, and now looking to drive over towards the line. That 20th turn is the most important. It's very easy to get it wrong, and if you get any form of slowdown penalty heading towards the line, it will cost you 40 seconds if you run too deep through the final section. A 2:17.4 then for Alexander Nikolov Jr., which is good enough to go third as Nikolai Mikov swiftly went to the top. That was taken away by Alex Stefanov. That's taken away by Martin Yankov as 2:16.321. It's 136 seconds, and it's split by 300ths out there only at the top. So Alex Stefanov, short championship leader, now on top. Rusty Koshev finds himself now up to 4th position on a 16.6. And so now all of a sudden, your top 4 split by just 0.3 of a second here in qualifying, and a difference maker it will be for a long time. Robin Skelton over the line. Lap doesn't count, but it's still ahead of the likes of Dimitar Palauzov. Only Radlen Ivanov is the only driver who has not set a time, as there is Dimitar Palauzov out there on track in the off-track racing Tangerine BMW on circuit, trying to build momentum through the lefts and rights, and now attacking turn 6, having to dance a double take going through the middle of that section. A massive bundle of understeer, though, on the exit. Little bit laboured on the throttle, and when you get out of line going through the first sector here at the Circuit of the Americas, not only is it difficult to gather it back onto line, but it's very easy to start dropping a 10th here, a 10th there, and suddenly that manifests into a full second that gets lost over the course of your lap. So you could be staring down the barrel of troubles. That's overcooked in towards turn number 10. And so, or turn 11, sorry, and leading over to turn 12, Dimitar Palauzov, I think, having an off lap here, and as such is going to be backing off of things more than others. These hot conditions as well is going to cause havoc for a lot of these drivers, because they're not necessarily going to have the time to go and get another fresh set of tyres back on and go and put another qualifying lap in, because we are down under 2 minutes here in this first qualifying session. But at least for the moment, I look around at Nikolai Mikov, I look around at Orlin Malinov, I look at drivers who want improvements, and they are going to need to find them, and they are going to need to find them fast. Nikolai Mikov dives into the pits, will probably be able to get around No, I don't think it's going to get back around. So that's going to hurt. Martin Yankov, 2:16.8, can't improve on the lap time. Alex Stefanov is going to pull into the pits as well. Can Koshev improve on this third lap? We look at Valentin Stemenkov, who I don't think was able to improve. And so I think drivers will be looking around there on circuit, maybe going a little bit slower out there compared to some others to try and just get a cool lap, so to speak. Get the tyre temperatures down on a very hot track and get themselves back into a window where they can attack for one final run. And it will be final runs for all of those drivers out there on track, for Yankov, for Nikolov, for Rosti Koshev. Crucially, it won't be for Radlen Ivanov, who has just come out of the pits in the, I would say, the very light green BMW out there on track, and as such pulling out of the way. I don't think it's going to get around in time here to reach 11 minutes. So it comes down to this then, a case of Rosti Koshev looking to try and put some pressure on down in fourth position. Alexander Nikolov Jr. will be certainly hoping for a bit of pace, 1.1 seconds off the pace, but Martin Yankov has a chance to extend that gap. But there's also Orlin Malinov out there on track, who is hoping that his time is going to improve from a 2:17.3 and has a lot of room to develop that time, but knowing that only Alexander Nikolov Jr. behind can make differences, that is going to be key. Checkered flag then is about to go for the GT4 category. GT3 AM are now going to be tasked with being allowed to leave the pits here and go out onto their sighters, but the focus is going to be clear. First driver over the line is going to be Orlin Malinov, as we focus with Koshev at this moment, who's green in Sector 2 and is green in Sector 3. There is certainly room for improvement, and it would be needed here. Those 0.3 of a second back, 0.2 would take it past Nikolai Mikov, who's second in the championship. Orlin Malinov then in the Aston Martin Vantage will look to put his first time on the board. Then of those with the checker flag out, crosses with a 17.2, was able to improve, but crucially no positional change. Martin Yankov dives into the pits as we focus with car 101. Rosti Koshev making a drive to the line as Alexander Nikolov Jr. goes fifth fastest. Koshev to the line, 16.343, splits the front row, which is split by 0.03 of a second. Koshev as close as you like. Martin Yankov can breathe a huge sigh of relief, but he gets pole, but not by much. This is going to be a very hard-fought race today in GT4 at COTA. Mark my words about it. GT3 AM currently out there on track, but 300 splitting the top three and less than 0.2 splitting the top four overall. If that's not any much of an advertisement to get yourself in and watching here the SimGear GT Masters, I do not know what is, as we listen in for the moment to the sounds of GT3 AM gearing up for a flyer. And so to GT3 AM, who sit themselves in a very interesting position here. 5 drivers split by just 8 points in the championship overall. Bozidar Andreev on 212 points, a 4-point lead over the duo of Ivo Serafimov and Joris Ooms. Ooms' teammate Roy Viveka is 2 points back of that on 206, and Maxim Dimitrov now on 204 championship points is just 8 points back in the championship. You got Ivilo Dimitrov at 195, so 17 points back, and there is only one driver to keep in mind who has a qualifying ban from today's racing, and that will be Milan Milchev, who will not be able to take to the grid here today. But by matter of fact of Milan Milchev not being in the field by the looks of things here today, that penalty will still stack and go over to the next round that is driven. So it might not be served today, so to speak, by not turning up, but it will be served at a later point during the season. So that is worth keeping in mind as we focus along Radlen Ivanov, who will have his lap, but this should not count as he goes through. So I think there might be a penalty if he goes and finishes this lap time, because it's well outside of the window, and Ivanov crossed the line well before some of the other well after the checkered flag has come out. So I think this might be a case of Radlin Ivanov needing to start from the pits there, as that is going to be across the line a lap that does not count. So crucially, Radlin Ivanov will pull over to the left-hand side and stay out of the way. Lap time starting, though, as Ivo Serafimov then in the Acura is going to be followed about by Alexander Nikolov Sr. on track as they pilot through the arena section 13 and then 14 that leads over towards turn 15 as the Ferrari keeps itself in close quarters combat here going through, and that's off the road, and a big struggle for Serafimov at turn number 15. And that will pretty much put the first lap away when you got the tyres at their freshest, as Bozdar Andreev is there just behind and happy to stay in the Rodopa Racing Team Porsche, looking for a very strong lap to put as a benchmark. This will be telling in terms of how quick GT3 AM is in comparison to GT4. We expect a difference of about, 10 seconds or so, 8 seconds. Andreev now setting the pace on what will be a 2:07.0. So a very good time out there at this moment in time. So Andreev finding himself then with not much that he needs to do in this race as he brings himself in and forward. Sounds like we were missing a little bit of sound then at the moment here, ladies and gentlemen, but we will get that to you in just the next couple of moments. But Ivaylo Dimitrov now is in second with Vladimir Mavrodiev there up, but Paniot Karpachev goes second now on a 2:08.0. Andreev is a full second clear of the rest of the field right now in qualifying. Roy Viveka can only manage a 9.4 by comparison, so it's showing you how tough this qualifying is going to be. Drivers like Joris Ohms, for example, hasn't set a qualifying lap time as of yet, so there will be alarm bells ringing that this might be a strong track for Bozdar Andreev, who has been mired so far this season in penalty purgatory and had tried everything possible to keep out of the penalty column, which of course is run on a 12 instant point penalty system. And of course, when you hit 12 penalty points, you do get a qualifying ban, and each race you will lose 3 penalty instant points for serving that ban. But of course, you can still pick up more penalty points by gaining close. But more clean races that you do, the more likely you are to avoid those troubles, as Andreev absolutely in the shadow of Ivo Serafimov, who again goes off the road at turn 15 twice. Same corner, same problem for Ivo Serafimov, who tried to get in through the middle of the corner and just stamped on the throttle on the exit. A very bizarre moment as it went through for Ivo, looking to try and get that lap time done. Went through the middle of the corner, had a little wiggle and kept the car straight, trying to avoid a massive tank slapper. So Ivo Serafimov is in worlds of struggle as Bozdar Andreev now improves to a 2:06.9 and now makes that gap over 1 second. Then for the first time in qualifying, Joris Ohms will eat into that gap on a 2:07.3, and Maxim Dimitrov's first time, a 2:07.5, keeps him honest right now as 3 in the championship, 1, 2, and 3 get themselves into the right position at the right time. Drivers like Roy Viveka will have work to do as far as qualifying goes, and again, Ivo Serafimov, I think, is going to be the big one to keep in mind, as Roy Viveka does improve to a 2:08.5, but that's only good enough to go 7th, so it leapfrogs only Vladimir Mavrodiev out there. You can't have everybody up at the top. That much has to be said, but ultimately it's going to be a tall order for drivers today to find what they want, to find what they need, and if they can put the best lap times they can on the board, if they can move on up to that echelon, that next echelon, they'll be hoping for a really good haul of points here at this circuit. 70 points maximum, of course, for a race win in this championship, but they're not scored by class in this championship. They are scored as everyone is within 1 point system, which is interesting for this championship, but it does mean that AM category drivers will need to race pro category drivers to keep themselves out of trouble over this season, as we focused back on the number 60 Porsche of Joris Ohms Ohms then for Mach Speed Racing, really trying to navigate through what is an all-important qualifying for him, losing the championship lead last time out at Mugello in the rain, not necessarily getting everything sorted. His Porsche teammate Roy Vervaeke doing very well, but it has looked, in terms of balance of performance today, like the Porsches have come out to play. They are 1, 2, 3, and 4 out there in this, with the likes of ninth only for Ivo Serafimov, who's not having much love here on a 2:08.8. So Serafimov will look at that qualifying time and think, not great. And down to the final 2 minutes of qualifying, I would be staring down the barrel and saying, I don't want to be there. Maxim Dimitrov's qualifying day done then in third position as he's down in the pits. I doubt he's going to get back out and around to keep himself close. And you got the likes of Lyubomir Velkov currently at the bottom of the timing stands for the category, 2:12.2 right now for the McLaren 720S, and Stanimir Borisov, his teammate in front, one car number difference, 54 meets 53 on a 2:11.0. There is car 64, possibly the unluckiest driver this season, Paniot Karpachev, then, who is currently in P5, hasn't been able to keep himself out of trouble this season. That's why he's down only on 138 championship points, but I think that does beguile his pace here for what has been a driver who has been caught out when he's done well. There's a car in the wall, and that is not Maxim Dimitrov, but Lazar Kutsarski, who has slid it through turn 6, and on the exit of the corner has just lost the back end, and that has stepped quite dramatically, and you'll see it here in slow motion, bang, into that safer barrier style section there, the padding, then through the corner. So that will be Lazar Kutsarski done here in qualifying. There is Božidar Andreev with 3.5 tenths of a second to the good in his name. And after not being able to qualify at each of the last 2 rounds, you'd expect that car 61 has been chomping at the bit to get out there and put a time in, and crucially might be able to get one more lap available, because look at that time as he crosses the line. He's going to be over it with about 5 seconds remaining here in this session, and now we'll get another go. Improves to a 2:06.822. Serafimov just gets over the line before the checker flag is out. 2:08.8 for him, but no improvement. But everybody else now is done. Joris Ohms couldn't improve. He's short of the time. Alexander Nikolov Senior, 2:08.337. He didn't get a chance to set a time, as now everyone starts to put their final times in on the board. Lyubomir Velkov, I think, is going to be one hoping for improvement. Borisov in there, the car 64. Paniot Karpachev, can that BMW wrest away a bit of help out there from those Porsches? 2:07.5. He'll jump a Vilo Dimitrov and move up to 4th position overall. Maxim Dimitrov was on an outlap. His lap will not count if he goes and he sets it. A Vilo Dimitrov is diving into the pits. Dimitar Dimitrov looks like he's driving without too much pace either, and into the pits then will go Maxim Dimitrov then, as it will leave just the 2 cars then left to set times. Those will be Ivo Serafimov and Božidar Andreev. It now leaves us, of course, with those drivers as the only ones who can improve, and everybody else now gearing up for GT3 Pro as outlaps have started for them, and the very unique situation of just how close to the line that it was put in final second to start that final lap then from Ivo Serafimov. He's the driver who needs time. On a 2:08.8, he is a full second off of some of his nearest competitors. Roy Vervaeke he'd want to at least get ahead of here, which is 0.3 of a second that he needs to find, taking again another wide line and really having to wrestle with understeer and the slow speeds and the Acura. Not what he wants to be dealing with at all, as Serafimov has a green 3rd sector, which is his only solace of hope here to go and gain that improvement. And now heading through the final couple of corners, turn 19 and 20, he will now make that charge. Andreev will feel like he's got pole positioning category sorted, which is job done for the championship leader. But Ivo Serafimov drives for the line, 2:08.612. It's good enough for one more position. He passes Vladimir Mavrodiev, and he gets P8. Andreev, the fastest in GT3 AM. GT3 Pro now brings itself into play, and all of these drivers now start lining each other up. Vladislav Shopov giving Venceslav Raichanov the toe, giving Chris Vrajilov the toe, giving Yulian Janovsky the toe as they will crest the rise. We go on board with the Acura at the back then of Yulian Janovsky, who will get the most perfect view there of the three cars in front of him right now. Chris Vrajilov's Porsche, Venceslav Raichanov's Porsche, and Vladislav Shopov's Porsche through the S's section. And the question is, can Janovsky find a way through? Shopov, rare mistake as he runs off the road, gets it wrong and has to abandon ship. Those anti-cut curbs, which are there here at the Circuit of the Americas first chicane, they stare at you, and if you even look at them wrong, you're going to be flying off over the top of them. This is a Vladislav Shopov, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, who's 44 points clear at the top of the championship, and over 4 races worth of battling that he's had to do, a full 4 hours and 20 minutes worth of driving. He's only picked up 1 incident point over the course of the entire season so far. So if that's not a designation of how quick, how clean, and how efficient Vladislav Shopov has been so far this season, I do not know what is. But abandoning that first lap puts the pressure on for everybody else. Raichanov is his nearest rival in the championship, also happens to be his own teammate there, and 44 points is going to be very tough to claw on back with 3 rounds to go. Chris Vrajilov then, I think, is doing very well in the slipstream through the arena sections. We focus with Janovsky, who's not quite been able to hold the same amount of pace in the Acura, just by the pace that's there. First time in, a 206.3 for Gabriel Ivanov then in the number 11 out there on track. That is a wonderful time out there in the McLaren for Gabriel. Will certainly take that all day long and twice on Sunday evening, which he is proving that he's doing at this moment. Raichanov will be the next time over the line, out of the Andretti, over to the short run to the line. A 6-1 then by Raichanov, and then he looks around. Vrajilov only a 6-4 and a 6-8 for Janovsky. So Venceslav Raichanov at the latest possible moment gets the lap time that was desired. It only leaves Christian Novev and Vladislav Shopov as the only two not set times. Novev typically likes to be out there on his own setting his lap times, and we've seen that quite a bit from him this season. At one point he was the championship leader after the opening round, winning at Sebring after the fuel miscalculation provided by Vladislav Shopov, but since then it's been a little bit more strugglesome for Christian Novev, and as such, he finds himself then unable to set a lap time over the first run through. So he will now need a little bit more out there. Worth noting, Dimitar Dimitrov's time of a 2:17.2 as his only qualifying lap is mired in the middle of the likes of the GT4 category, but he will be allowed to effectively place his car at the start ahead of Yankov and Koshev and Stefanov and Mikov and Nikolov due to the fact that it is a GT3 rather than a GT4. But Shopov currently lighting the screens purple in Sector 1. In Sector 2, and Shopov has Venceslav Raichanov, who's backed off of the lap there right behind, who wants to try and get that slingshot and slipstream that's there. Remember, this track is not going to move in terms of its temperature. The only thing that is going to move is how rubbered in the surface is, and that might either benefit or hinder depending on how rubbered in the track state is. Shopov running through turn 15 and absolutely needing to sprint through turn 16, 17 and 18. Only green in sector number 3, which means there is still hope for those around that the lap time could just evaporate here in the final couple of corners. He had to take 2 bites of the cherry into turn 19. Didn't look settled at all going through there. It was a little early to the turn in of the apex, but as he clips the curb, the anti-cut one at turn 20 over the line, 205.4. Was it in doubt? I don't think it was. And when you consider that there were a couple of mistakes on that lap for Vladdy Shopov to still be 7/10 clear almost of the rest of the field, it's night and day compared to what everyone else is experiencing right now. Vladislav Shopov is in a category of 1, and the only sporting categorization I can think of was Liège-Bastogne-Liège today, and the way that Tadej Pogacar was able to run away from the likes of the field over the Col de la Redoute. It's very similar right now from Vladislav Shopov. It's almost like it's a seated attack from him, and nobody else has any sort of pace to go and counter it. He has been top dollar on pace at every single round. He's got 100% pole position ratio at this moment and is only looking to continue. Now down to the final 5 minutes here of qualifying to see who can put a best time in, and Shopov's going quicker again in Sector 2, another purple time. Raichanov does improve though through that second sector, hoping to cling on to any form of slipstream there. Vrajilov no improvements, but Shopov quicker again in Sector 3, goes purple once again. Janowski, now Julian is quicker in Sector 3 as well, which seems to be the place where everybody is finding the improvements. No surprises to see Chris Vrajilov try and jump on the back here, trying to give as much time as possible. Still no time in by Christian Novev though, and that might be very telling, because he has just left server, and I think with how much time we've got remaining, I'm not sure he's going to be able to get back out and get another time and on the board. So I think Christian Novev here is going to have to go from the back of the GT3 field to go forward, and they do not discriminate between AM and Pro out there. Into the pits goes Shopov, so he abandons that lap through the final sector, but Raichanov now leading over the line, as he will now give Chris Vrajilov a tiny bit of toe to work with as they now crest up the hill towards Big Red. Turn number 1, that plateau braking. Oh, abandon ship for Ventislav. So easy to do there, having to think about turning in through the corner. Didn't want to lose the tyres, not this late. And so there goes that qualifying effort. Shopov will feel comfortable in the pits right now. Gabriel Ivanov is currently in 3rd position on a 206.3, and only 400s clear of Chris Vrajilov, which is the attack that's there. And they're going off the road again is going to be, I believe, Ventislav Raichanov, who pulls that back to the pit. So Shopov, with 3 minutes to go, it's going to come out and see whether he's going to be challenged or not. But Ivanov here in the off-track racing pro number 11 is certainly sliding about on circuit and looking to gear up that McLaren to be right place, right time, right result here on the brakes. Turn number 11. And getting the drive, needing to find it off at the exit, and now onto the long back stretch where we expect this to be the all-important challenge piece of racing like this. I'm sure these drivers will all know just how important the overtake will be when they get down to turn number 12. This downhill braking zone, very easy to catch the curb wrong because drivers love to extend out as far as they can before turning into the corners. And now through the arena section goes Gabriel Ivanov, and looking at it, it's yellow, sectors 1, sectors 2, sectors 3, and sector 4 might be heading the same way, so I doubt there's going to be much left in terms of improvement. 33 minutes now hit, and the pit lane hits for Julian Janowski, who can't do anything more in this qualifying session. And I look around and think, well, who can do a little bit more out there to get that improvement? I look at Raichanov and I think, I'm not too sure. I'm looking around and thinking, yeah, he's not going to be able to do anything. Chris Vrajilov, I don't think, is going to be able to do much of anything either. So Gabriel Ivanov crosses over the line. 206.324 was able to improve, but here's the issue for Gabriel Ivanov. An improvement of 6 thousandths of a second. That's all. No more, no less. 6 thousandths of a second. He's slightly more safe against Chris Vrajilov, but not much more out there than is possibly allowed. And Vladislav Shopov here is gearing up for one final blitz around the circuit, because it will just be him and I believe Ivanov as the only other 2 cars who are potentially out there on laps, who can do laps out there at this point. And Vladislav Shopov, well, here's a masterpiece, heading towards Big Red at turn 1 and just trying to get that tiptoe over the top of the hill and then run back down the route here towards turn number 2. We are not a million miles away from College Station here in Austin, Texas, which is, of course, the home of the Texas A&M Aggies out there. And the A&M Aggies had a very solid NFL draft for them this year, which I'm sure was very, very good for the school as they look to continue to build their prospects heading into the next college football season. But Shopov up the hill through turn 8, now turn 9, looks at turn 10, this sharp jutting left, it's flat out through here as he now goes through the gears and now looks at about 227 kilometers an hour, looking for the apex. He absolutely batters it as he goes through turn number 11 and now onto this back stretch. It's very much the joining part as the checkered flag now falls here in qualifying. Shopov down in sector 1, down in sector 2. Only Gabriel Ivanov can be between him and that pole position, but Ivanov is down on 2 sectors. Shopov purple in the 3rd. I'll tell you a little bit of something. He was good in the straight line, but he's going to abandon it off the side of the road. So he's done with it, which just leaves Gabriel Ivanov heading towards the line and does improve again to a 206.274. Wasn't able to string any personal best sectors, but I think that will tell you all you need to know about what Gabriel Ivanov was capable of doing there, just short of Venceslav Raichanov by exactly 1/10 of a second. So a little anticlimactic then when it came to the end of qualifying, but everybody then is done, and we've got about 2 minutes to go as Barney will wave his checkered flag in the session for an empty racetrack for another 2 minutes. He got his 5-hour energy this morning, that much can be said. But now it will set up the grid for racing action here at the Circuit of the Americas, and it is 5 poles from 5 for Vladislav Shopov. Would certainly take that all day long, and he will say without a shadow of a doubt that that is no less than what he expects from each and every single qualifying session. He has got lightning pace each and every time he steps in behind the wheel, and in practice it didn't look like he was necessarily going to be the fastest driver. He actually only set the second fastest time on a 206.6, which was compared to the 206.5 set by his teammate Venceslav Raichanov. But ultimately, I think that's going to be where it throws a little spanner in the works for certain drivers there, where it goes through practice only tells you so much. And Shopov, when he needed a time, he delivered 1.2 seconds quicker than what he was able to do in the practice session just before we came live with you on stream. But at least for the moment, he'll feel quite happy about that. So too will Bodzidar Andreev, a 6th place start for him and just 4,000 short of the time set by Yulian Janovsky, which I think is even more telling that the middle of the field is going to be very, very close out there in comparison to those nearer the front. So it might be a pace game that we keep that focus with. And then, of course, when you go back down, you look at Martin Yankov. He's got control of the category, but it's going to be a very close one with Rosti Koshev and Alex Stefanov, who I think are all going to be there. So here's your grid. As it stacks up, it is Vladislav Shopov who will have the pole position on a 205.492, and it's pros for your top 5 with Venceslav Raichanov in second, Gabriel Ivanov third, and then you got Chris Razulov and Yulian Janovsky 4th and 5th. It is then Bodzidar Andreev, your leading AM, your championship leader in GT3 AM, who starts in 6th, with Yoris Ohm 7th and Maxim Dimitrov in 8th place. It's then Paniot Karpachev and Ivailo Dimitrov that round out your top 10, with Alexander Nikolov Sr. in 11th in the Ferrari, and Roy Viveka for Mark Speed's Porsche in 12th overall. Ivo Serafimov and Vladimir Mavrodiev are on row 7, with Stanimir Borisov and Lazar Katsarski, who found the barriers in qualifying there in 16th. It is then Lyubimir Velkov and Dimitar Dimitrov. No time set for Christian Novev, and Novev will have 1 minute to get onto the grid. Otherwise, his grid slot is going to go, and he will not take a start in this race, which it does look like that is the case at this moment, which is a real shame for him. It will give a free pass then to Chris Vrajolov to take third in the championship. Martin Yankov on pole in GT4 with Rostislav Koshev and Alex Stefanov then second and third. Nikolai Mikov then is lining up in fourth with Alexander Nikolov Jr. in fifth position in category. Then follows Orlin Malinov, Valentin Stamenkov, Raban Skelton, Dimitar Palauzov, and Radlan Ivanov, the final driver out there who did not set a representative qualifying time in the session. But it is the backstretch that we lead on to behind the iRacing Porsche first safety car here today. So that is going to be a slight change to what we normally see with the BMW safety car. But that Porsche safety car will lead through the Porsches out there on track and over towards this half a lap, where they will have getting themselves ready for racing action here around the circuit of the Americas. A full lap around the clock, 1 hour they will get. They will go from tick to tock and look to try and get their race all set and sorted. But the question will be asked very early on: how do you get the launch against Vladislav Shopov? How does Bozhidar Andreev battle? Can he keep himself out of trouble here today? And then you look around at Martin Yankov, who has been staring down the barrel of consistency and now has a tiny little margin to go and work with now as they run past the fabled observatory then on the right-hand side. It also doubles up as an event venue, as an amphitheater for many different events that go on. You can see all of the seating that's there down in the pit as these drivers all circulate around, which I think is really cool in terms of what the Circuit of the Americas does have to offer. And then we will be getting ourselves then off and ready for racing action of a full hour. Will it be a case of 4 straight for Vladislav Shopov, who will stand on top with 2 rounds to go in GT3 AM? Can Martin Yankov continue to eke out a margin, which at the moment he'd say is a little bit breathable? But in comes the Porsche first safety car, and now Vladislav Shopov has to wait for that start zone, which is at the moment the time that you get catch fencing to start. Now he waits for that opportunity for the green flag to fall into this race, and now waiting for that start line. He goes as late as possible. Green flag in the air, and we are underway. That long wait might leave Gabriel Ivanov a chance to dive through in towards turn number 1. Everybody fans out, 2s and 3 wides. Joris Ohm's getting very close, and now off the exit. Oh, Shopov contact, and Vladislav Raichanov's going to take the race lead away as they go down the hill. That might be huge. GT4 gets itself underway, and also throws Chris Vrajolov into second. Yankov up the hill. Here goes Alex Stefanov now down the inside, looking to take that away. Koshev having to fight hard with the McLaren there of Nikolov Jr. out there on circuit, diving through, but ultimately Nikolov's going to get the run. Big start though. Venceslav Raichanov lead. It was a little bit of contact with Gabriel Ivanov, who falls back to fifth. But my oh my, Shopov's going to have to make some moves in this race if he wants to win this one. He's been faultless this season with only one mistake to make, which was of course the fuel calculations at Sebring. But as they now run through towards turn number 12, that is going to be the least of his concerns at the moment, and that is an issue. Is that Koshev, who's found himself turned around then as he's gone through, sliding about 101. Not a time in the championship to make a mistake. Avoided everybody there with that spin through the S's, but now will have to climb his way back through the field, and that 8-point championship margin, again, we keep talking about it. That's what gives Nikolai Mikov a little bit of something to go and work with. And there's contact with Raban Skelton, and I believe that is going to be Valentin Stamenkov, and then both of the JRS cars then find themselves turned around. So Skelton at the very precarious turn number 9 turned around there on track and not happy about it at all. Raichanov, your leader, Vrajolov in second, and then of course it's car 1, Vladi Shopov, who finds himself in third. Janovsky is fourth, and then it's Gabriel Ivanov and Bozhidar Andreev in sixth, and Andreev has got Joris Ohms behind him, giving him the biggest chase, his nearest direct competitor in the championship, with of course Ivo Serafimov, the other one out there on track. But A lap score complete here at Circuit of the Americas. Up in towards turn number 1. They come along, and Gabriel Ivanov again staring down the back here of Julian Janowski, as it's going to be Acura versus McLaren out there on track, and every place is going to matter. Through the SS section, we got side by side here as they go up the hill, out of the final corner. That's going to be, I believe, Radlen Ivanov and co losing out on position, as that's going to be Rosti Koshev who will make that move and get by. So he's past Skelton, he's past Stomenkov, he's past now Radlen Ivanov. He'll look at Dimitar Palazov next, and here comes a look into the S's by Alex Stefanov, who now knows that he's in 4th position. He's just got to harry the likes then of Martin Yankov and make sure he is under an immense amount of stress over this race. It's the only way he's going to come back and win this championship, is if drivers like Yankov make mistakes on track. That's what you got to bank for. Down the hill they go, and it looks like side by side as Janowski has to potentially yield here on this position, getting the run through on the brakes. Lovely pass as Gabriel Ivanov gets what he wants. The drive off the exit is there by Julian, but he can't get it done. Round the outside, not quite there. Gabriel Ivanov then holds his place. In front of that, Shopov is sniffing, and I'd say he's shopping his Shopov now for a pass on Chris Vrajolov at this point in time. Cannot quite find the angle that gets it done, but at least for the moment, they know that they're safe in the knowledge that Christian Novev is a non-starter here in this race and gets himself there. Oh, into the back. Round goes Vladdy Shopov, and now everyone's going to find a way through. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars go through. 7 now as he goes up to pace. Shopov has completely lost his head. They're going through the penultimate corner there, just ran straight up the back of Chris Vrajolov and then lost the rear end of it, and now has to really gather himself back up to make this race work. And when we were talking about a 44-point championship lead, it might get eaten into by a bit. You can see he's just not quite up to speed with Vrajolov's braking distances, and then just gets into the back, and round he goes. He's the one that gets unsettled through the corner, trying to keep it out of trouble. He's now down to 9th here in this race with a lot of work to do to charge up. Behind that, Paniot Karpachev looking at Alexander Nikolov Sr. for a place here. The Ferrari is staving off the BMW, staving off Ivo Serafimov's Acura, which is out there on track. Viveka struggling a little bit out there in this race. He's lost out a place to Mavrodiev for position, but up over the top of the crash, Shopov comfortably dispatches then of Ivilo Dimitrov. That will put him up into 8th place now with that pass, but on the brakes, turn 11, Karpachev. Look how aggressive Karpachev is now as he looks to try and get the drive off the exit. Božidar Andreev now looking to try and put some light distance between him and Joris Ohms. He's got the run on Janowski. Close. Janowski runs to the outside. Now looks to try and take the long road around. Can't get the drive and is going to lose the place. Joris Ohms now appears on the scene and knows how important that place is, because for Božidar Andreev, that is a big swing in terms of points. So it is 70 points, remember, for a race win out there overall each and every time you're going out there and you're battling with what you've got. But then points go down. 63 for second, 58 for third, 54 for fourth. That's 51 points now in fourth place. That is 54 points now for Božidar Andreev. That's an extra 3 that he pulls out on one Mr. Joris Ohms, which now means that gap is 5 points instead of the 2 that it would have been for the difference between them right now. And that 4-point championship lead would extend out to 9. Alex Stefanov now leads this race in GT4. Martin Yankov has had to yield the position away. That one done on the backstretch into turn 12. I believe we caught that on camera. So ultimately, Alex Stefanov now looking to put the pressure down. And now Alexander Nikolov Jr. will look to try and put more damage in for Martin Yankov. He might take third. He's still ahead of his main rivals. Nikolai Mikov's only in fifth, looking to attack Olin Malinov for fourth place. Koshev is sixth, but trying to recover back. Not a bad day at the office. If you sit down and you look at it and your name is Martin Yankov, you don't have to attack Alex Stefanov too much. There's the pass and a case there of Martin Yankov being very gentlemanly, leaving all the room there on the inside and just pulling back over to the inside once the clearance was made by the McLaren. And so the pass then finds itself to completion. Nikolov Jr. now looking to bring himself into play here and down the hill through turn number 2. Definitely not close enough to Martin Yankov, but will be reliant on a mistake being found in order to find that move. Ivo Serafimov now finds himself close here in this big slew of cars in front. Paniov Karpachev lining up. Alexander Nikolov Sr. moves over to the left-hand side, feigning that there's going to be a move. And on the battle of the brakes, the Ferrari wins against the BMW. And there's no chance of Karpachev, just for now, getting that move. But a fantastic group led by Vilo Dimitrov. Porsche leads then Ferrari, leads BMW, leads the Acura, and then you got Vladimir Mavrodiev, who sits back there in the McLaren. So that is 5 different manufacturers in 5 positions, as Lyudmir Velkov now in a battle with Lazar Katsarski. This for 17th and 18th down on the bottom of the GT3 AM class, and that is a Lazar Katsarski missing the front clip. And that has been a sight all too common for Lazar this season. And I'm wondering where he's done that here, because I would assume that he's done that last lap, and he has done that last lap. So a very hefty shunt for Lazar Katsarski as he's gone heavy into the wall. I believe at turn 4 and 5, he's clipped the anti-cut curb, and that's what's done it wrong. Karpachev now to the outside then of Nikolov. Oh no, there goes Karpachev spinning round through at what is turn number 1 at Big Red. He was looking for the pass, but ultimately he's turned himself across the nose of Nikolov Sr., who did not move and would dictate the line. Karpachev was expecting him to turn, and quite simply put, Alexander Nikolov Jr. didn't. He stood him up at the door and said, "No, sorry, sir, you're not my date." And just like that, Karpachev is dumped down to 14th position. That is not what the doctor ordered there. You start looking around. Shopov now thinking about 6th position as he's on the back of the leaders of GT3 AM, as he thinks about Joris Ooms for a position. He'll think about Julian Janowski, who is, of course, a GT3 Pro, and he'll also be looking at Bozidar Andreev for a position now, and thinking, you know what, I would quite like that as a place, and I would love to move up and gain a little bit more. On the brakes they go, in towards the left of turn number 12, and now looking to go through the arena section, around the outside, tries Vladdy Shopov, and he won't get that done on Joris Ooms, who quite simply put says, no, you're going to have to be a bit more braver than that. And speaking of brave, straight out the way, move on through. Vladislav Shopov train is back in business, and he comfortably gets by Joris, who realises Vladdy Shopov's not my battle out there, and he will get by each and every person in front without really too much trouble. So Joris Ooms letting that go. This is Radlan Ivanov getting on the anti-cut curb, getting on the rumble strip there, and finding himself then going towards the final corner. Let's see where it goes wrong here. Turning in, looks all too familiar that it's all right, but does the back step out coming through the exit, has a little wiggle, then gets onto the curb. And that looks all right, actually, to me there from Radlan Ivanov. So not much worries there. Is it turn 1 where the problems then look to manifest? Answer to that is no. So Vladislav Shopov moving up now, puts himself back into P6, and Ventsislav Raichanov 8.5 seconds clear at the front of the field, doing 2:06.9. That last lap for Shopov was a 2:07.1. Now Lazar Katsarski has hit the lane after just 11 minutes worth of running. No mechanical flag out there. This is a pure pit stop, and this will look like a 2-stop now for Katsarski with the amount of fuel that he will need to use between now and the end of this race. So it's going to be a very, very brave day's worth of racing to keep everything in place. Martin Yankov's dropped down to 5th. So Martin Yankov, I'm not sure what's happened with him, but he has dropped well back down the order. He's now back with the likes of Rusty Koshev. So I'm not sure where that happened. Oh, there you go. He got turned across the nose by Nikolov Jr. into the Armco. And where does that look like? That looks like it's somewhere in the S's section there. And Martin Yankov, who's prided himself on keeping himself out of trouble, 0 incident points. Nikolov Jr. taking the tap. Is that through turn 7 in towards turn 8? I think that might be Gabriel Ivanov for the podium, getting very, very close to Chris Vrajilov. This for second and third. And Vrajilov now is having to defend with everything he's got to maintain that position. I think Gabriel Ivanov will want to try and navigate by, and he's certainly feigning for turn 19 as a place. It's a closed corner at turn 19. Not a place that you can make the move unless you stick the nose down the inside. And ultimately, it's again another case of the waiting game having to be put into place for Gabriel Ivanov in third. But oh boy, this is going to be one where I think a lot of tempers are flaring. Julian Janovsky looks to go through. There's a move for second, and it's made at turn 1. But down the inside goes Vladi Shopov. Has he overcooked it through the corner? Julian's going to try and fight back here in towards turn 2, but will back out of it eventually. Shopov now into the top 5, but crucially, Gabriel Ivanov is now up into P2. Straight down the inside. It's the perfect block pass there for Gabriel Ivanov. You couldn't really ask for anything better of a pass at turn 1. He just chokes the apex of the corner. He gives no room for Chris Vrajilov to get any sort of drive back against him in the negative delta by KK Squad Porsche. And as such, the waiting game must continue. Now it is GT3 AM versus GT3 Pro. Bozidar Andreev now has to play the defensive game out there in this race, and he is going to have to try and prove that he can get his car, his Porsche, a little bit quicker along the line than some of the others there. The Rodopa Racing Team car, door is half ajar. Shopov was searching but couldn't find the move as he looked at the inside and longed for that move to go into 4th position, but thought better of it, knowing that he's got patience on his side and he can use it. Paniot Karpachev also looking to try and find an overtake out there. That is Roy Viveka's number 59 car. No pace for Roy today. He's struggling out there, and this is a day where he can't really afford to struggle with Vladimir Mavrodiev in front of him and Ivo Serafimov and Alexander Nikolov and Ivilo Dimitrov. On a day you need to find pace, he's got none, and Karpachev, I think, is going to want to try and find a way through. Mavrodiev, I think, is the bridge of the divides then from getting to that next section group out on circuit. 5.6, the leading gap now for Venceslav Raichinov as Shopov again looks to line up Bozidar Andreev. Will he go for the big lunge at turn 1? You bet he will. Down the inside, Shopov. Room has to be left then by Andreev, who's going to try and get drive off the exit. He'll have the inside here for turn 2, and he sticks his nose down the inside against Shopov. Shopov's going to get the superior drive, though. Great pass at turn 1, and now there's a little bit of license of about 2 seconds to go and breathe and gain a little bit of placement. So that, I think, is going to be very telling here as far as this race goes. Shopov now up to 4th, and he'll be looking at the duo of Vrajilov and Ivanov as the next two to try and get that next positions up, as now Ivo Serafimov attacking against the Ferrari in the Acura and really hoping for drive here out of turn number 9, leading to 10 and 11. And this is a good effort and attempt here. I think Ivo Serafimov's going to have a half chance if he can lunge down the inside of Alexander Nikolov Sr. Now looking for that opportunity here, looking for the inside. But again, the drive is just so much better from the Ferrari compared to the Acura. Very much a case of a paint-by-numbers style drive for Serafimov. It was a lot easier for Nikolov to just take the pace through the corner. Didn't really have to worry about too much. And as such, it stays as they go, but we are now starting to hit the GT4 lap traffic here, and I think that's going to be quite telling. Nikolai Mikov, this is a big move right now for Nikolai Mikov here, because look at what's behind him. The two main protagonists behind of Yankov and Koshev, who are now together on circuit, who are now going to be thinking about how they go and construct their passes, and they will be staring down the barrel of Mikov, who wants through on all-in Malinov, and those two cars are going to want to go through. If Mikov can stave off Yankov and Koshev, he will gain points in the championship. He might only gain 1 out there, maybe 3 if you can get a clean race bonus, which is added of 2 championship points. And those clean race bonuses, they really add up in GT4. And you will see that Martin Yankov all over that. But Yankov won't get any because he had contact. Neither because of the spin or Rosti Koshev. So Nikolai Mikov, I think, might be trying to angle it up. Koshev looking for the drive then, coming off the exit. What a launch as Ivo Serafimov gets down the inside, finally gets his number and gets the move sorted. Let's look back, though, to Yankov and Koshev as 2 of maybe your main championship contenders. Now look at trying to find this move. In front of that, trying to go to the outside is Nikolai Mikov. Koshev trying to turn in for the corner, has to wait for it for Martin Yankov. And Yankov now looking to get drive off the exit. Koshev's got the inside, and Koshev's going to try and hold him out there, and hold him out there, and manages it. But Martin Yankov can throw a dive, but backs out. Crucial moves. Malinov still holds Mikov up at the moment. That Vantage doing everything it wants to at this stage, which is keeping an advantage out there in this race. And all the while, Shopov has now found the back here of 3rd position, and Chris Vrajilov. So 3rd is not safe at the moment. Janovsky wants Bozhidar Andreev's number, but for the moment, Nikolai Mikov keeping himself then in a stoic and calm situation, which he has every right to do. He gets a wonderful launch out of the final corner, the Andretti, and now up the hill, he's going to get a chance at Big Red. Oh, door to door, let's contact door to door. Nikolai Mikov, well, look at that. Was that enough to take the bonus points away? Big lunge down the inside, trying to overcook it. Malinov trying to get back down the inside through the corner, can't do it. Mikov gets the pass and moves himself up to 3rd now in this race. Koshev now in 5th, Yankov in 6th, and these points are adding up, and suddenly a championship gap of 6 is halved out there at this moment in time for Martin Yankov. And they are down, they are racing currently here in this one for 21st position in this race and back. And it is worth talking about how many points do you score for 21st position out there in a series like this. And it is telling. You get 30 points for 21st, and it's 1 point increment. It's 1 point increment out of 11th place. Worth keeping in mind as they continue on with their race. Vrajilov having to defend now at this point because Vladdy Shopov is over him like a rash. And there's no other way of describing this. Shopov wants the place. Shopov wants the momentum. And at the 1/3 distance, he's hoping for a way through. So too is Ivo Serafimov as he lines up Vailo Dimitrov. Getting a little bit wide there on the exit of turn number 9. Now over through 10 and over to 11. This is where every corner starts adding up, and the traffic that's there in front of Radlin Ivanov isn't going to be too helpful for the GT3 AM drivers. There, Shopov close, but staring down the barrel of a podium at this stage. Now trying to throw one down the inside here to get that move sorted here. Chris Vrajilov is doing a great job of defending, but has the door been left open? Oh, it was close there as they went through, but Vrajilov can only tiptoe through the corner, had no drive and therefore no downforce from that rear spoiler, that massive rear spoiler of the Porsche GT3 992 out there at this point. So this is a really tough order that's going to have to be put into play. Defensive going through 19, over to the Andretti at 20, and again close. Remember, there's been contact front to rear already in this race between Vrajilov and also Vladdy Shopov, so Shopov's going to have to look and be a bit careful out there on track. Yankov is through on Malinov, and Rusty Koshev hasn't been able to do much about it either. Up the hill at turn 1 as they go through, they're going to be right on the back of them here at this point, and door to door they'll go down the hill. So is there going to be again drive here through turn 2? Again it's going to work. What tenacity by Vladdy Shopov, gets it done again to get that place. So now I'm very curious here to Rusty Koshev and co. and Martin Yankov getting the double clearance they went through. It looked like Malinov went through turn one, and crucially, he got contact as he turned in for the corner, because deep in for all in Malinov was Rusty Koshev, and Martin Yankov said yoink and took 2 places away out there on track. And now here comes Koshev looking to build that position back once more. Remember, they've only got 25 instant points before a drive-through penalty. DQ at 35. Oh, and look at the pinch. Look at the pinch from All-In Malinov behind. He does not like what happened between him and Koshev now is finding he's got to try and get himself out of a very prickly situation, which is this rosebush. No way of getting by Malinov there, and suddenly you got the overall race leader, Venceslav Raichanov, who's sitting on this and thinking, I want none of that. Absolutely none of it at this moment. And now here comes the case of having to be patient. Slips away through at 16, 17, 18 now, the final part of the triple right-hander. But look at how leaving that space opens it up for Koshev to try around the outside. Door left ajar. Ajar is not a way to go through, though. At that stage, though, it's just about shut. The door then by Malinov. And Rusty Koshev's race, and some even may argue his championship, hinges on this move on All-In Malinov. All the way to the pit wall. Here comes the launch again. Now what does Koshev do? Goes to the outside. Malinov tries to pinch him off and hold in that position, but has Malinov gone deep? Because here comes the up and under. Oh, it's so smart by Koshev here as he now looks to get the launch through turn 2. But look at that on the inside. Still good drive there by Malinov. He doesn't want to yield. Now he'll have to. Here's the hit the S's. Brilliant stuff. Rusty Koshev gets his driver, and now will look to try and run back towards Martin Yankov, Nikolai Mikov, and all of those drivers. Now Ivo Serafimov will start lining up, trying to find overtakes here, because he's seeing a Vilo Dimitrov who's there right in front and thinks, I don't want to be stuck here. I want to be 4th in my category, and making as much damage limitation as possible to Andreev, to Ooms, and to Maxim Dimitrov, who by each and every single mark of what they're doing are now about 5 and 11 seconds adrift of the GT3 AM leader, Bozhidar Andreev at this point. Vilo Dimitrov struggling to get rotation through turn 9. This is the run that's been needed out of 10 for Ivo Serafimov. Big launch over defensive to the inside, and now late on the brakes. They're all late on the brakes. 1, 2, 3. They've all been caught brake watching each other. They've all gone straight on. No positions changed, but Vladimir Mavrodiev is back in the group, and Roy Viveka's there, and Panior Karpachev is also there. So there are points to be had, and a lot of them here. It's a very volatile middle group that they sit with right now, and they cannot afford to sit the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong piece of momentum that's there will completely change the seismic landscape that they've got at the moment to try and deal with. And Mavrodiev trying to get up and underneath Alexander Nikolov Sr. here, and now looking, it will be a long launch around the outside. You need big power off the exit of 15 to get that launch to 16. Doesn't quite get it, so Mavrodiev just has to wait, and it is going to be that waiting game here in the middle of the pack, and they'll be keeping an eye on pit stops as well here in this race to be where they want to by strategy call. We haven't seen anybody except Lazar Katsarski for damage jump on into the lane. There are no fast repairs. He would have had to get some manual repairs on the car to get himself back out and racing again. And as I look at Lazar Katsarski's car, I do want to note he does have a front bumper now, but he has had the panel beater out on it. I think they had to wait a few laps to get the part back in because they didn't have a spare, and they had to just whack the panel back on. And if iRacing had flex tape, so to speak, you'd have got a massive piece of flex tape on it to say, I don't want anything of it. Still, though, having to dance through the traffic, and look at how it breaks this group up. All of a sudden, you're looking around, it's too clear in the form of Dimitrov and Serafimov. Then Alexander Nikolov Sr. has Mavrodiev's position, and then you got Karpachev, who's now through on Roy Viveka, who just gingerly makes his way around Valentin Stemenkov, but now drops the group. So all that traffic, and it's not much through the S's, but it's the worst place to catch traffic on the lap. It's done its job as Alexander Nikolov Sr. again now having to deal with Mavrodiev for position. Mavrodiev now will have the drive and the chance to go and make this pass, which will be for 11th place, and those all-important championship points, which we've been keeping a very close eye on here right now. Thinking going to the right, gonna go to the right late on the brakes, trying to scare a move on, and doesn't get that with Alexander Nikolov Sr. So Sr. holds his place and keeps himself there. Wide in front, though, goes Ivaylo Dimitrov, and suddenly, round the outside, tries Ivo Serafimov there. You can see it side by side, just in the back of shot, and they will fight off the exit. Ivo's got it, spin! Nikolov's going to go around, 360, lights up the smoke as he goes through the corner, and there at 15, the Ferrari, which is normally so poised through that section, can do nothing but spin around, and Alexander Nikolov Sr. will not be best pleased. There is Dimitar Dimitrov, who I think has his own issue as he goes into the corner then, as he goes through. It was Ivaylo Dimitrov who was side by side, but look at that, back steps out, huge slide through the middle of 15, and Dimitar Dimitrov does well to keep that out of the barriers and keep the race going. This is Alexander Nikolov Sr.'s moment out there on circuit. He's very narrow into the corner, and he tries to stamp the power down the exit, but the car just has none of the rotation. And what credit to Vladimir Mavrodiev to keep himself out of trouble there and not bring himself through. Now keep an eye on what's going on in GT4, because Alexander Nikolov Jr. has dropped right back here, and Nikolai Mikov is all over him. Shopov as well now on the back of Gabriel Ivanov for second, but this is second in GT4, and Nikolai Mikov needs space between himself and Martin Yankov. Any position he can get between himself and Martin Yankov, he'll take in a handbasket each and every single day. Mikov now thinking, is it left, is it right? It's going to have to be right here because it's well covered by Alexander Nikolov Jr. out there on track. Jr. dueling down the straight towards turn number 12, and on the brakes, Mikov trying around the outside to get the pass sorted, and what drive he's got. Second now, and again, there is a car between himself and, crucially, Martin Yankov, but that's way too deep through 13, and Nikolov Jr. can come back through 14 to 15. He's stuck on the outside. Oh, they're going to come together. Contact as they now lean into the corner. Mikov's still got a drive, though, as he looks to try and get that position back. He is right in the fire at the moment, and they are stoked. All three of them are at this moment in time. They all want places, they all want positions, they all want time to be on their side. And at the moment, it quite simply put, isn't at this stage. Now who's got the drive as they go through? Maxim Dimitrov wants to get through on this, but he'll have to respect that they're battling here and they're fighting. Wide they go through the final corner. Now where does the Porsche go? It will move all the way to the inside. It will get the clearance that's needed, and it's 0.2 of a second now in the battle going on in GT3 Pro for second. Here comes Yankov down the inside. Oh, you thought you had a pass, you thought you had it sorted. Now here comes the track extend off the exit. No, he'll have to give it up there. So Nikolai Mikov, who looked like he was going to get second, now drops down to fourth. And Martin Yankov is back in pole position again for championship efforts. Shopov side by side, out of 9 through 10. How often do you see that as a move done? And Gabriel Ivanov just had himself one poor corner, and it cost him that corner, the core corner, so to speak. It's going to be turn number 9 out there, which led to, 8 into 9, and that is going to be tough to deal with there because he was forced into that mistake by Vladislav Shopov. He found himself then in a really tough position, but now he'll throw it straight back at turn 12. Shopov's going to have to give him respect here on the outside because he'll have the inside for turn 13, and this is where you start dealing with characters who know how to battle, and look at how that gap has ballooned to his teammate Venceslav Raichinov. It's now going to be 11.6 at the front of this field. Martin Yankov now eyeing up second in category. Has he got the drive to go and get this move done? No, he can't get it done. Nikolov Jr. is making life difficult and is bringing Rusty Koshev back into the group. So Koshev here, by no means done in a race like this. After the spin he had, the contact he had to struggle to get by Orlin Malinov, might have just been given a lifeline here by how hard they're defending out of turn 15, and now looking to launch through 16, 17 and 18. Well, I never. Well, I never. This is as close as it gets. We are getting some brilliant racing out there here from this great track. And now we get pit stops here in GT4. And aren't they important? Because Yankov is followed immediately by Mikov. Koshev is going to stay out longer and try and make himself work on the overcut strategy. Martin Yankov making the call, now running through here, looking for the box, and just about manages it there. But now you look around the middle group, and Paniot Karpachev, for example, has now made some great progress. He's through on Mavrodiev, he's through on Viveka, and now he'll be eyeing up Ivaylo Dimitrov, looking to try and get another place out there at this stage of the race. So I think this is quite a telling moment here. And oh, look at that off the exit. Nikolai Mikov has absolutely stolen a march on Martin Yankov here, and he's got him on an undercut then of fuel. So Mikov has got Martin Yankov, and Yankov's gonna have to make the pass on track in the second half of this race. Wide goes Ivaylo Dimitrov, through goes Karpachev, through goes Mavrodiev, and Dimitrov then, who found himself overtaken trying to go around Rusty Koshev, who was out there on circuit. Karpachev picked up one, and then the door was just left open, and it was thieving from the way that it went through. I was struggling to find the word there. That was a thieves move there from Vladimir Mavrodiev. He just whipped that position away and said, no chance, you are not going to be dealing with that. But saying that, there you go, straight back down the inside. I will have my comeuppance and get that position again. Mavrodiev, oh, down the inside contact, round that's Alexander Nikolov Jr., who gets turned by Ivaylo Dimitrov, and that will be a huge boon to those who just pitted. Yankov and Mikov are now going to pick up an extra place when Alexander Nikolov Jr. eventually does decide to come down into the pits there. Nothing that Alexander Nikolov Jr. could do about a scenario like that, as now Maxim Dimitrov becomes the first of the GTs to make the call to dive down into the pits. It's going to be a very important pit stop here, because he's trying anything he can to get the launch through. Any form of undercut that he can manage is huge. So Mavrodiev, for example, looking around. In comes Alex Stefanov to the pits. Ivaylo Dimitrov now will take pit lane as well and bring himself out of the pressure cooker situation. We do expect that Alex Stefanov will retain the race lead, because Martin Yankov and Nikolai Mikov, they're only going through at turn 18 right now, heading to turn 19. It means now that Rusty Koshev is going to be your category leader for the moment. There goes Maxim Dimitrov. He will now exit the pits and get himself back up to speed here in 13th position, and he will charge. Now leaving the pits is Alex Stefanov. There he goes. And by comparison, where is the likes of Nikolai Mikov? He's coming along the straight right now. This match, he might be quite close here for the race lead. So Alex Stefanov will look around. He's got a gap. He's got a gap crucially, but it's not as much as it was. It was 6.5 seconds, and that 6.5 second gap is now down to about 2 out there on circuit. So I look at that and I say 1.3, 1.4. You're in the wheelhouse here, Nikolai Mikov. The race victory is far from over. And getting up to speed then, Alex Stefanov is struggling a little bit here to get the pace. In comes your race leader, Ventsislav Raichinov, who will depart from that race lead and will look to not hand it over to Vladi Shopov, because he's coming in with Lazar Katsarski, and now he's going to have to make an overtake in the pits. He's side by side in the pits. Katsarski was slow in the pits, and because of that, they're side by side. Now, this is going to be awkward here as they now go through, because will there be contact between them as they go through? Crucially, there isn't, because they got over the transit lane in time, which is the moment where you go ethereal out there. But that was very, very scary for Vladdy Shopov. Leaders all in, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. All in the pits right now. Joris Ohms there. Reichenov leaves the pits. No surprises there as he makes his stop and looks to try and get that sorted. Fresh tyres, fresh boots, out and away. There goes a great stop from Vladdy Shopov. He will now give chase here at 9.5 seconds back. He gained 2 seconds in the stop, and Alex Stefanov's dropped. Alex Stefanov has dropped from the server. He's had a technical issue out there, and that will be his race done. Oh my goodness me, from what was a race-winning position, it's going to be internet troubles for Alex Stefanov. That will cost him this race win at Circuit of the Americas. Nikolai Mikov now is in pole position to win this race, and that would be huge for him. Stefanov jumps back into server, but he'll drop the lap out there on track. Koshev will be smiling from ear to ear as well, realizing he doesn't have to deal with him for the rest of the race either. But Nikolai Mikov is your net race leader, and Martin Yankov can sense another victory there. We'll take a look out of the pitch. Yulian Janovsky here, just behind the timing tower, the Acura. Oh, is this with Andreev? Is this with your GT3 AM championship leader? Contact on the inside, and Andreev gets a tiny tap, but crucially did not lose the place. Božidar Andreev knows he can't afford to get caught up in too much there. Nothing he did wrong there. Janovsky was just trying to be cheeky off a pit exit, and Joris Ohms very nearly took advantage of that. Look at where he is now. Right on the back. Under 22 minutes left to go here on Pitlane.TV in the SimGear GT Masters. It is round number 5 here from the Circuit of the Americas. And quite crucially, Joris Ohms is now bringing himself into play here in 9th, trying to pull himself up into 8th to get close to Božidar Andreev. A couple drivers yet to pit. Then of the group is Roy Viveka and Alexander Nikolov Sr., who I believe are still due their pit stops out there. As in comes Roy Viveka. Out now finally goes Alex Stefanov, with his race ruined as he's now dropped down to almost the back. And Lazar Katsarski, by the way, is down in the pits for a 3rd time. Now getting the damage repaired and trying to get back out and racing again. Martin Yankov eyeing up places now and eyeing up important ones as into the box goes Roy Viveka. There's Nikolov Sr.'s Ferrari, which will move into a box just 1 ahead and will get up on the jacks and get some more. So Nikolai Mikov will now need to push, because you've got the likes of Nikolov Jr., Skelton, Koshev, and Malinov all in the pits. This is Andreev, front stretch, and we'll look at Paniot Karpachev and see what happened with him. This is going through turn 15, which has caught out many a driver today. And again, the back steps out, trying to trail break through the corner. And the BMW goes sliding on. You can see the smoke found. And it looks like Dimitar Dimitrov also finding potentially some troubles over at turn number 1, trying to gather back up this race. And ultimately, right at the top of the hill. That's never ideal, trying to get that launch. But Nikolai Mikov now leads this race by 1.2 seconds over the likes of Martin Yankov. It's a further 3 seconds to Rosti Koshev. Joris Ohms needing this pass, and will desperately need this pass on Yulian Janovsky. He's got to bring the gap down here to Božidar Andreev. At the moment, that gap sits at 4 championship points. At the moment, as the standings look, it's 212 versus 208. If he can get that pass, he'd only be back by 7 championship points, heading to Road Atlanta in 7 days' time. I would say for Joris Ohms, this is a must-make pass on Yulian Janovsky, and he will certainly need to do so by the end of this race. So, Julian has a big role to play in GT3 AM as a GT3 Pro, and you don't often get to hear that. Worth noting, the gap at the front of the field is down to 8.5 seconds out there between Raichunov and Shopov. It is not closing quick enough for the race lead to change, but crucially, Raichunov is keeping up a great turn of pace, which cannot be matched by Shopov right now. Shopov took 0.4 of a second on that last lap. He's going to need to take a lot more than that. He's probably got to take about 0.8 to a second a lap if he wants to have any shot of winning this race, or hope that Raichunov finds a mistake, his own teammate. So now running through towards the S's section, on board with Joris Ohms here in the Porsche. Now looking to get this drive through the long left, and now this fast right-hander, traffic not helping Andreev up in front. That's Alex Stefanov that you have to try and get by, and now Julian Janovsky is going to have to try and find the right way to go through. He's going to have to be patient and wait through turn 8 and turn 9, and now he can put the power down and get the launch through turn 10. He'll be followed immediately by Ohms, as now Stefanov back out on circuit, lunges down the inside, and this is where the grip levels are fairly similar between the two categories. GT4 mainly just down on power rather than on downforce levels, but ultimately that move goes through, and Joris Ohms now slipping away past Dimitar Palauzov and will stay in the range of Julian Janovsky. This is your closest battle out there on track, with Martin Yankov, of course, at 1.1 out there on track with Nikolai Mikov at this moment in time. The only other close battle, that for GT4 lead, but a very important round for a number of different categorized drivers. I look around at Christian Novev taking a non-start today and seeing the likes there, of course, of Chris Vrajilov picking up the run and the points in fourth, will now have sole possession of third and stay well out of the way. I look around at Božidar Andreev. When you take the championship lead, you got to try and build on it, and you can see it there on the right here, your speed trap figures down at turn 11 into turn 12, and Andreev 251, 253, crucially for Joris Ohms quicker. So his Porsche's a lot better in a straight line at the moment. Janovsky is struggling a little bit here to get as much out of the Acura compared to some of the other drivers around. Up the hill into turn number 1, and Andreev's gone very deep into the corner, and that might actually be another way that it goes. Maybe don't make the overtake on Julian Janovsky here, Joris. Maybe let Janovsky go and attack Božidar Andreev for you. I think he'll be looking at that going, yeah, by all means, go ahead. Now dancing through the S's section up towards turn 6. Double apex corner, and then turn 7, which feigns that big hook right. Oh, sorry, the big hook left, sorry, at 135 kilometers an hour up the hill through 8, straining for putting the right foot down at turn 9. And finally, you can over the top of the hill at the highest section of this circuit, at the circuit of the Americas, all the ranches over on the right-hand side as they go. But Janovsky now brings himself right into play and now says, my turn to start putting pressure on. And surely now for Božidar Andreev, he will be looking around and hoping that there is going to be some respite for him in the final stages of this race. He's going to have to earn this GT3 AM victory. Joris Ohms will definitely want to get there. Janovsky throws it right up behind and has two massive wiggles trying to get the car to slow down. It eventually does, but I was worried for a slight second there that Božidar Andreev was going to have that contact from behind. It was a very sketchy moment, and we've also got Karpachev, as it's close once more there from Joris Ohms. He's thinking about turn 15. It's also close between Karpachev and Roy Viveka, and Roy lets him go on the straight, knows that Paniot Karpachev is quicker, and for Roy's championship hopes, they are starting to fade here at the Circuit of the Americas, because he is behind Serafimov, he is behind Dimitrov, he is behind the likes of Joris Ohms, and he is behind Božidar Andreev. He is 5 of 5 out of those championship contenders. And speaking of those who are championship contenders, Martin Yankov is slowly reeling pulling in the catch at this moment if he were trying to fish up a Nikolai Mikov and a race-winning category. Again close at the top of Big Red at turn number 1. Yulian Janovsky now brings himself closer still with the likes of Božidar Andreev in 5th position at half a minute off of this race lead, and really showing that this race is far from finished at this point. Overall race lead now down to 7.5. We do have the likes of Ivanov down in the pits. That's Radlen Ivanov now, who's getting some service and hopefully trying to get back out and racing again. But for Janovsky here, it's attack or be attacked at this point. It's Schrodinger's overtake. You must attack and defend at the same time. That Acura has the impossible challenge of doing that. But Andreev takes a nice line through the corner. Joris Ohm's very aggressive on turn-in on the entry, and he, in fact, looks to try and put so much power down on the exit. He runs out onto the AstroTurf on the exit of the corner, and that will certainly not help things if he wants to make that pass at 3.5 tenths of a second back. I don't think he's close enough to throw a Hail Mary down the inside, but for the moment it is stay as you are again. Oh, Janovsky close, and again Ohm's just not in position there. If he was able to sense that moment happening, he could have dived over to the inside and picked it up. Suddenly Janovsky has to defend here. Joris Ohms now turns the screw and looks at which way he can make that pass. Everybody's shallow as they go through 15, so for Joris Ohms, chance goes begging there. I hate to say it, but chance goes begging. Didn't quite work, and now you're going to have to try and reconstruct it once again. Janovsky gets a little bit of space now, and so maybe a couple more laps here for Joris Ohms to give some space and then attack again. That might be the scenario that presents itself in front for the Belgian, up against those 2 Bulgarian drivers in front of him here in your SimGear GT Masters, heading towards those final 12.5 minutes, or 12 minutes, so to speak, then as they will cross over the line. So now, on the brakes, in towards this section. Now, this is Vladimir Mavrodiev, who has looked like he's had a moment. This is turn 7. Sorry, no, it's turn 19 even, out on track, trying to get that drive through the penultimate corner. Smoke goes flying up, and Mavrodiev then will lose the place as the likes of Roy Viveka will pick that up and will certainly have a field day with an extra point or two. So too Alexander Nikolov Jr. will find that point quite amusing in the long and short of the championship. But Janovsky, again up over the crest of the hill, again starting to search, again start to try and find things. I look at that gap at the top of the field. I think a white flag's just been waved here by Vladislav Shopov. I think he's now just going to consolidate second place, and he's not going to put any pressure on his teammate Venceslav Raichinov here for the final 10 minutes overall in GT3 Pro. GT3 AM on a knife edge, still close as well in GT4, where Nikolai Mikov has himself a chance to take his first race win. There is Shopov, there is Mikov, and for Nikolai Mikov and Martin Yankov there behind, you can see Martin Yankov has just been dangled about at 1.5 seconds. Koshev is a further 2.5 seconds back of that. And they have to keep the pace up because they can't afford to let him in. Yankov slightly misses the apex at turn 1. And that BMW now, we're starting to see a couple of mistakes here. I think Yankov's trying to overdrive the car a little bit, 1.5 seconds. He knows he can taste Nikolai Mikov. He knows he can taste that overtake, that position, that P1, that champagne you get when you win races virtually. But for the moment, Martin Yankov is not in a position to make this work. Rusty Koshev will happily watch in 3rd position and keep things going, but on board with the BMW here. And for Martin Yankov, every corner he has got to try and stamp his foot down and find any sort of angle to attack. 10 minutes to go at Circuit of the Americas. Yulian Janovsky remains close here in this 5th, 6th, and 7th place battle. 5 championship points. Doesn't sound like much, but in the context of GT3 AM, in the context of what is going on for Božidar Andreev, for Joris Ohms, this is a huge moment. That is Gabriel Ivanov from 3rd position having a big spin, and that's brought Chris Vrajilov back into play, then that gap is only 3 seconds all of a sudden. In fact, no, it's even bigger than that for Gabriel Ivanov, because he's now fallen back behind and he's now gone to 4th place. So that spin has really costed, and now that's also another little go and get them for Božidar Andreev, Julian Janovsky and Joris Ohms. If issues befall drives in front, they can profiteer, and the point margins change again. Ivaylo Dimitrov up the inside of Vladimir Mavrodiev for that place, and now can he get it off the exit? No! Brilliantly done by Mavrodiev. He's got drive, but through turn 2 he understeers, and there goes the pass of Ivaylo Dimitrov. Gets his move done and will feel very comfortable about making that pass and gaining that all-important place back there of 13th. Lucky for some, lucky for Ivaylo Dimitrov there. Janovsky again through turn 15. Won't get drive off the exit. Runs wide off that exit. This is where you can start using your incident points. Very important that you keep them in the bank so you got something to work with later on in the race. And Božidar Andreev again is just staving off the challenge. A second and a half the gap. Into pit is Robin Skelton, and that, I believe, is going to be for incident points. A black flag penalty. Skelton has hit 25. He'll only have 10 to work with now, between now and the end of this race, before he gets disqualified. So there's that drive-through served, and keep an eye on Robin Skelton in terms of the last 8 minutes of this race. If he can pick up 10 more, he's in trouble. But Janovsky keeps himself there. Eyes will now be fixed to the penalty chart on who's got how many out there at this point, as Janovsky closing. They've got Alexander Nikolov Jr. that they can use as a pick, and that's a teammate, of course, to Julian Janovsky here. And Božidar Andreev gets held up through 7, and now he's going to have to go around the outside of turn 8 to try and get it sorted. Can't. Turn 9. Can't. Now they're all over each other. Julian Janovsky tries to get the pick here, and this is a big moment in GT3 AM. If you can find this move, close as they go, just about enough overlap between them. Almost contact now as they head to turn 11, forcing each other to the extremes of the inside as they battle through. Andreev holds in that one, but now Joris Ohms needs to get a launch along this straight. The double toe going to be important. Raichanov has struggled a little bit here with traffic. He's now lost that gap down to 6 seconds here with 6 minutes to go. But now, as Julian Janovsky feigns a defense, feigns an attack, feigns an everything, he doesn't know what he's doing at the moment. He's got to try and do something and can't get themselves there. Again, parity resumes itself, but they've got cars in front of them. The lap down, Dimitar Dimitrov, Gabriel Ivanov, who they will try and get to at the end of this race in 4th position. There's another little hook that they want. 3 seconds gone for Venceslav Raichanov on this lap, and I think it is just purely traffic which has cost the time for Venceslav here, as he had to wait an entire section around Rosti Koshev, who was trying to stay with the group in front of the likes of Yankov and Mikov. At still 1.3 seconds there between that group. Janovsky continuing on, trying to find a look out to the final corner. He might be able to throw one at turn 1, but at the moment, championship gap is 9. If the move from Janovsky is made, it's 7. But crucially, if the move is made, it will be a 2-point gain and a 2-point loss as they go in. Sorry, it'll be not 7, but 6. It'll be a 2-point gain, 2-point loss. It would be down to 2 points to championship lead. If Andreev finishes 7th, Ohms is 6th, and Janovsky is 5th. So 2 points would be huge in terms of that. Right up to the rear goes Joris Ohms, who now needs to start thinking about, okay, well, I can't allow this to go on. I'm going to have to make a move, but a big mistake at turn 7, and the gap opens back up again, and that's just the way it goes. Sometimes around this circuit, you get a little bit of a moment, and it works. Katsarski, by the way, is spun around again, as he's had a little bit of an issue over the top of turn 1, and he's still waiting to get going once more. But I am still keeping my eyes peeled here on Martin Yankov at 1.3 seconds. He's still there for Nikolai Mikov. He can't afford to sit back and rest on his laurels here, can Mikov, because he knows that every lap he's got to turn around this circuit. He cannot sit and wait for mistakes. It is that sort of moment out there where this is a crowning title challenging moment. Mikov's not won this season. This might be his first chance to. Martin Yankov will try and do everything to get it back. Joris Ooms still can't find his pass. And this is where it gets so frustrating for a driver like Joris, who knows he's got to try and get by Julian, and he knows he's got to fight a GT3 Pro for 2 championship points. And he knows that Bozidar Andreev is just there. He can reach out and touch him if he wants to, but he just can't get the pass. The Acura is doing enough at every single phase around this circuit to keep this race honest at this stage, and they are reeling in now the likes of Gabriel Ivanov, and that'll be more points then for Bozidar Andreev if he can get that pass sorted, because remember, it is another 3-point swing to get to 4. 2-point swings and 2-point swings and 2-point swings are all there behind that. So getting to 4th is a big moment here. If Bozidar Andreev can catch Gabriel Ivanov, and he's got that gap down to 9/10 of a second, and he has just latched on and gone, I'm launching, and now do your best and try and hold on close at this moment in time. Also keep in mind that Rostislav Koshev has pulled the gap to 1.2 now to Martin Yankov. So Yankov is not safe in second either. And if Koshev can get ahead of Martin Yankov and take a point away, that will make life even easier as they head themselves to Road Atlanta, as they head themselves towards the Circuit de la Sarthe. They'll be thinking about those moments and saying, well, where can we find a little bit more out there? Where can we find one more place to make that pass? I don't think this is going to be as plain sailing as people think it is heading to the final laps of this race, because I look at Koshev, I think he's hungry. I think he wants that position of Martin Yankov, and he knows his championship hopes depend on finishing ahead at each of the last 3 rounds of this season. Anything less than that, and he will start falling back and dropping points, and he doesn't want to be dropping points this late on in the season. So 2 minutes to go on the clock, and there will be 2 laps to go in this race. Potentially just the one, though, for Venceslav Raichinov. It's going to be very close at the line, whether it's 1 or 2 laps to go, because he crossed the line with about 2:07 or 2:08. I'm not sure whether the flag's going to be waved or not when they cross the line next. So this is going to be about hold your nerve. Andreev now on the back of Gabriel Ivanov. You've got Joris Ooms, who's desperate to get by Julian Janovsky, and they're now equidistant apart as they now chase up the hill. They will have traffic of their own category in Lyubomir Velkov that they'll have to try and get by, and then they've got the trio that they've got to deal with, of course, of Koshev and Yankov and the runaway Nikolai Mikov, who's out there at the moment. All over the back now, Andreev, he's like, he is absolutely determined. He is just purely laser focused right now on Gabriel Ivanov. He wants a way through. Traffic's going to stay out of the way, and that's going to be great news out there for them, as they've got 1 minute left on the clock, and the clearance is not going to be there for Joris Ooms, who's going to have to take a much wider line, and that might drop him off the back of the group entirely. In front of them is Koshev, who's eyeing up this pass and is really trying to find a look now at Martin Yankov. Closes right up to 0.4 of a second. Hopes to find the move. Hopes to find the pass. Diving down now towards turn number 12 and hoping that the pass is going to be more than enough to secure that position of second. And now looking over to the left-hand side, trying to get in the mirrors. Cannot make that pass and has to stay right behind. Gets right up underneath. 15 seconds left on the clock. We go to Venceslav Raichinov. We need to go to Raichinov because he's 10 seconds away from the end of this race. Is it going to be one more? 5 seconds to go. What a drive it has been from Venceslav Raichinov. And as he crosses the line, he will cross and clear with just or 4/10 of a second left on the clock. We go one more because he was 4/10 short of the line. And here comes Andreev looking for a move round the outside of 16, 17 and 18. Gabriel Ivanov just holds. Here comes Koshev now to the outside. He'll have an extra lap to get this move done. What a finish we're going to have here at Kota. Round the outside, trying to get it done. It's not there. Martin Yankov still has to play defense, still has to try and hold himself up and steady, knowing that the victory's gone now, and he's got to defend. And Gabriel Ivanov is going to throw this down the inside of this battle, but he lifts out of it. And look at that, from a mile back, Yuli down the inside. He's going to try and take it. He catches the curb. Andreev holds, but now you look at Martin Yankov. Now you look at Koshev. Ivanov's just about going to get himself that gap and go through. And now on the defense, look out, look at that from Yuli, just taking pure advantage of Bozhidar Andreev. Now they're back together again on circuit. Koshev still trying to find a way through, and still there's nothing. Joris Ohms now, that's a big moment in GT3 AM. Ohms side by side with Andreev. Andreev could have been looking 3 places higher than what he is. Now at turn 9, has to leave the gap. Power's going to be there on the exit, but Yankov gets a reprieve now as they head through. That's a massive, massive bit of battling. Now down the hill, they go to turn 11. Ohms has to get clearance through the corner. Andreev's going to hang out Yankov, and suddenly Koshev's going to get a run now on the back stretch. Now it's going to be about those drives, and Bozhidar Andreev will look at Yulian Janovsky and go, you're quite cheeky. How on earth do you manage that? Raichanov has 2 corners remaining as Andreev now brings himself in. It was simply put, a race of no mistakes at the front, but 1 corner for Ventsislav Raichanov, who will break the streak of Vladdy Shopov and win at Circuit of the Americas. Shopov will take second. A long wait for Chris Vrajilov and co. But all your battles, GT3 AM and of course GT4, still coming towards an end. Koshev still can't get by Yankov, but as they now run by your GT4 leader, Bozhidar Andreev could have had a slew of points of a championship lead. Instead, he'll only +2 unless he dives for the final corner. Oh, his contact. Is there drive? Joris Ohms trying to get off the exit, can't get there. So that won't work out. It's Andreev who takes it. What a win behind, though, for Nikolai Mikov, who takes GT4 and moves a step closer to Martin Yankov, who does stave off Rosti Koshev. What a daring race we have had here today at Circuit of the Americas. Simply magnificent out there. But now Paniot Karpachev through the final corner is going to hold in comparison to Ivo Serafimov, who would love to have this day back with a good qualifying effort. Still a top 10, but points left on the table. And Roy Viveka there in 12th position, 11th position overall over the line. Yeah, no, that is not the title hope that he was looking for, and he might just have to play helper to his teammate Joris Ohms at the end of the season. Vladimir Mavrodiev will be one of the last takers over to the line. We still wait for the likes of Alex Stefanov as well. Really tough day for him. Was in pure control of the race in the 112 machine in GT4, and technical issues drop him out of the race and pretty much say, yeah, not much we can do. Vladimir Mavrodiev then crosses the line. We will wait for Alex Stefanov before we run through the official results here from the Circuit of the Americas. Of course, there will be protests that come through and try and bring themselves in, but Alex Stefanov, your last finisher over the line. Wow. Is that the move by Yuli Janovsky that put GT3 AM on notice? He struggled there, but the lap traffic in GT4 were given license to battle on the final lap of the race, and they did so magnificently as they went through the S's section. Janovsky just knew Andreev was being very cautious at turn 1, cautious here at turn 3, didn't want to follow around the outside the same way Gabriel Ivanov did. and then thank you very much. There's that pass on the final lap, and a wonderful move as well. Confirmation of result then. It's car 2 for the first time this season that picks up the victory overall. Venceslav Raichanov gets the job done. 1 hour, 2 minutes, 6 seconds. Wins by 6 over Vladislav Shopov, who will feel like he left a little bit on the table today after a mistake on the opening lap, which brought the field back and through on turn 1, and then the spin on the back of Chris Vrajolov to get himself back into play. He's left a few points on the table, but still it's a sizable championship lead of 37. Chris Vrajolov will finish in third ahead of Gabriel Ivanov, and the battle that we saw between Yulian Janovsky, Božidar Andreev, and Joris Ohms pretty much encapsulates why we love the SimGear GT Masters there. 6th, 5th, 6th, and 7th for them. Quiet points for Maxim Dimitrov. He'll finish third in category with Paniot Karpachev in 4th and Ivo Serafimov rounding out the top 10 overall, with Roy Viveka, Alexander Nikolov Sr. and Ivilo Dimitrov 11th, 12th and 13th. Vladimir Mavrodiev would finish 14th ahead of Stanimir Borisov, with Lyubomir Velkov and Dimitar Dimitrov in 15th, 16th and 17th. And then a big first win for Nikolai Mikov, who takes category in GT4 ahead of Martin Yankov and Rosti Koshev, who will end up third in category. Orlin Malinov would lead home Alexander Nikolov Jr. with Raban Skelton there. Lazar Katsarski had a very tough day at the office. He'll finish 24th, with Alex Stefanov, Valentin Stemenkov, Dimitar Palazov and Radlin Ivanov making the field non-start for Christian Novev. We do have your drivers, though, from GT3 Pro, along with Venceslav Raichanov, first to talk with us here, because it is a race victory for you, Venceslav, and one at Circuit of the Americas that the moment you took that race lead away at turn number 1 of this race, you did not look back. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, the pace was good. I think a little bit of luck in the beginning, so I could make a gap to the drivers behind. So for that track, I think more than good, more than good. Happy for the win.
Well, you absolutely have to be happy for the win, especially because it gives you more gap on those behind. It consolidates your second place in the championship, and crucially, you're starting to build some points then as you move forward. So taking that into consideration, you had about 11 seconds worth of gap just before the pit stops on Shopov, and you managed that quite comfortably to the end, 6.1 seconds all in all. So for you, surely it's going to be one of those where you say you look back on this season and you take this victory with pride.
Yes, for sure, for sure. But still, Vladi was faster than me, but the luck was on my side this time. But still 1-2 for the team, so we are happy.
Well, you don't need luck to be, or you don't need to be the fastest to win races, is the way I like to say it. It's not always the criteria that gets it done. But Venceslav, it is going to be, for the next round of the championship, Road Atlanta. It's more of a cauldron of racing than it is what you see Circuit of the Americas. So how are you feeling about that, heading over to a very hilly circuit like Road Atlanta?
Much more my liking of a track, so I think it will be better, and I like the flow of that track much more than Kota, and we have a lot more experience on that track, so I think good race to come.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck there, but it is your first race victory of the season. Venceslav Raichanov joining us then, picking up the win in GT3 Pro. We have his teammate Vladislav Shopov here, who is second overall in category, and it's not often that we get to say that to you, Vladdy, P2 today, but the opening lap is probably one that you don't want to relive over and over again. The late launch maybe on the start of the race, losing those 2 positions, and then the contact through turn 19 on the back of Chris Vrajolov.
Yeah, it was a nightmare of a start. I couldn't have wished for anything worse, but it was my mistake both times. So I did get a late launch, and then I ran into the back of Chris, and then I just spun. So yeah, completely my mistake, and twice, not just once.
Well, you walked in with 4 hours and 20 minutes worth of racing with one incident point. You've walked out with a little bit more. Crucially, in terms of the way you fought back, though, in this race, from 9th position back up to 2nd just before the pit stops. Does that give you the confidence to know that you are still maintaining those championship points, those all-important ones, and knowing that you are still holding that championship lead by a good margin heading over towards Road Atlanta?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to lose too many points to Vancy. I think like 4 or 5 points maybe. So I'm still going to be in the high 30s of lead. So not really too much of a drama. But yeah, it's sad to lose points. It isn't the best feeling. But second place, I'm just happy. Happy I could fought back.
Well, it's not just happy for you, it's happy for the team as well. What do you think's been the secret to seeing these consistent 1-2 results then between you and Venti?
Probably just like practice. Except on this track. This track is awful. I hate Kota. So I'm looking forward to Road America. Road Atlanta. But yeah, just practice, I think.
Yeah, well, I know this is a track that some drivers love and some drivers hate. I know it's pretty much in your hate category right now, but Vladislav Shopov joining us there. Ever fantastic to talk to in 2nd position overall. And 3rd would belong to Chris Vrajilov, who will now cement that 3rd position in the championship here. Firstly, Chris, it's an important 3rd place. It was a quiet 3rd place after the contact that you had with Vladislav Shopov over on lap 1. So talk us through your start of the race and now having a strong grip on that 3rd place in the championship.
Well, the race start was probably the best part of the race, and from there everything just went downwards basically. I struggled for pace, then I struggled for grip mid race. Yeah, it was just tough. It's not my favorite track at all.
Well, it doesn't seem like many people's favourite tracks, but in terms of that race, especially heading towards the final stage of the race, it looked like it was just about consolidation, making sure that you got the team result in, especially considering as well that Christian Novev was a non-starter today.
Yeah, exactly. We managed to recover some points, but with him missing that round, it's gonna be tough.
Well, you got a chance to gather it back at Road Atlanta, which will be your 6th race out of 7 over the course of the season. As it goes for you, and looking at building the points this season and building results time and time again, what does it mean for you as a driver, knowing that you're consistently finding P3s, P4s, and you're building the blocks up to having a very nice, consistent season?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm quite happy with the position, but I felt like I'm missing the pace. So it's something that I need to work on for the next race.
Well, we'll hope that you find a little bit more, then you can be up there and a tiny bit more competitive, but you wouldn't shake a stick at a 3rd place finish, which is what Chris Vrajilov has here today. We will now move over to GT3 AM, where Božidar Andreev picked up the victory in category here today. Božidar walked into today with a championship lead. You've looked like the fastest driver in category all season long. And today, another case of you with qualifying and especially moving into that race, looking like you were challenging the fringes there of GT3 Pro. Just talk us through the start of your race there and looking to try and build a gap in this championship.
Well, yeah, I'm happy that finally I have qualifying. Because starting of the back is really tough and difficult. I'm happy with the qualifying lap I did. That was my personal best lap. And through the race, I tried to be smooth and didn't and try to not make mistakes. But there was a big mistake through the first pit stop and the only pit stop. But it was a good race. The final lap I have a little problem with the GT4s, and that cost me 1 place, but I'm happy. I'm really happy.
Well, no doubts you are happy, but of course, let's talk about that final lap, because it was one of the craziest final laps we've seen in the SimGear GT Masters in a pretty long time. So for you, running through the SS section, was it a case of you trying to be just protecting the car, trying to protect the finish, seeing how aggressive Julian Janowski was with you on that final lap?
Well, yeah, I try to protect my car and protect the GT4s because they have battle too, and I didn't want to disturb their battle, and you learn see a gap and go for it. But it was a good fight with him.
Yeah, an incredible fight, and one which now you still are able to build a couple more points. Your lead should be 6 now, heading over towards Road Atlanta. So do you feel that's going to be, again, another tool in your arsenal, that you feel like Road Atlanta is going to be a good track for you?
I have never dreamed drive before Road Atlanta. I have no idea what will be.
Well, it's going to be an open book then for you over the next week, and we'll wish you the best of luck there. Bozhidar Andreev joining us here from Circuit of the Americas, winning the category. Second in category would end up being Joris Ooms, who is his nearest challenger in the championship in the Mark Speed Racing Porsche. And Joris, especially that second half of the race, it looked like you had pace. You had pace you wanted to use, but you ended up stuck behind Julian Janowski's Acura. So talk us through the second half of that race and how difficult it was to find overtakes here at Kota.
Well, the last half of the race, yeah, it was most of all, it was very enjoyable. I was grinning from ear to ear. I think for the last 20 minutes of the race, that was awesome. But maybe it looked like I could pass Julian Janowski, but I was driving on the limit, and I was just trying to keep up with the guys. Try to find a spot to do a takeover and do a move. And then yeah, there was that last lap. I think we had like 5 opportunities to do a move, but it was a bit of madness there. So I was just happy to finish the lap in one piece, and major kudos for Andreev. He was doing a great job there.
It certainly looked like it. It was very tough on that final lap, especially when you got the GT4s battling for position there. How do you approach that as a GT3 driver, knowing that they have about as much autonomy as you do to go and battle for a position? It merges on the same piece of real estate, and you got to try and find a way to make that move happen.
Oh, how do you approach that? Yeah, with care and with patience. Unfortunately, if you use too much patience, you won't be fast. So, yeah, just trying to find that balance and not cause any incident, because that's the end of not your race, but somebody else's race as well. So yeah, patience and care.
You're still in touching distance here in the championship. We expect it to be about 6 points by the time you leave here at Circuit of the Americas. We now look at Road Atlanta, which is a little bit more of a smaller circuit, but still the racing is always fast and ferocious there. Do you feel like you have a chance to really build on the result that you've got here of the P2 today, and it's going to be more in your favor when it comes to racing action there?
Well, I for sure I love Road Atlanta. I've been driving there a lot, and I just heard from Andreev that he has never driven there. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, because that's also dangerous. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And again, I'm hoping for a great race like today, and a great battle for a podium spot.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck when it comes to Road Atlanta. Joris Ooms joining us then and picking up second in class. It would be a quiet third in class for Maxim Dimitrov, who's here with me now. Maxim, I'd say it's a day where the top 2 in the category had the chance to run away. You started 8th, you finished 8th, you're 20 seconds behind them, all things said and done. But in terms of your day, you take the consistent point, surely.
Yeah, it was very uneventful race for me in no man's land. I was too slow for the win. I was quite fast and got away from guys behind. So yeah, very, very boring race, but happy with points.
But you take points, especially from the position of where you were 2 rounds ago to where you are now. You're still in with a shout of winning this championship. But with the gap now as it is, and, the championship leader taking big points here today and pulling out a further 4 on you, are you looking at Road Atlanta when it comes to next week and going, I'm actually looking beyond that and trying to get a big result over at Circuit de la Sarthe?
Yeah, I believe now I'm at 3rd place in total championship. Never driven on Road Atlanta, but I also never driven on Mugello, and I took a win there.
Well, if that correlates, then it looks like you're going to be the one that everyone looks at here today, Maxime. But talk us through how important this season has been here with the SimGear GT Masters, because it looks like for cultivating a scene of GT drivers here in Bulgarian sim racing, it's absolutely wonderful what it's done here for the community.
Yeah, very good question. Actually, I started sim racing to participate in SimGear GT Masters. I started racing around a year ago with the sole purpose of preparing for this season.
Well, it just goes to show you that getting yourself in and involved, it is something that anybody can do in the sim racing sphere. And if you haven't had the chance to already, please, please, please join in and get yourself involved, because it's a wonderful community with some great racing. Maxim Dimitrov joining us there, third in category. It now takes us over to GT4, where Nikolai Mikov has picked up his first race win of the season. Nikolai, a day where everyone around you made mistakes, but you were the one who were head and shoulders above and kept it out of trouble.
Yes, hello. I just try to be consistent as ever and keep my tires working and keep the grip. But obviously today my opponents had more problems than me, and that's the reason for my result.
Well, you kept it out of trouble. There was a lot of close battling, especially with the pit stops. It looks like you got the launch on the pit stop over Martin Yankov there, and that gave you the platform to keep the gap at around a second to a second and a half for the entirety of the final stint.
Yes, I was a bit surprised that mid-race I was able to increase the pace a lot. I go for this early box because I didn't want to lose a time behind my opponents, and it worked. Yes, it worked. I'm really happy about that.
You pull the gap in by another point, so we expect it to be a little bit closer for you now with Road Atlanta on the horizon. How are you feeling about that as a circuit?
Yes, I'm really excited. It will be a bit easier to me because the Kota track, I made my first lap, let's say 9 or 8 days ago. I saw it's really specific, but I enjoyed to drive and to practice, and it worked. And I believe with next track, it will be a bit easier to me because I had previous races there.
Well, it looks like you're starting to make some strides here, and a title push might be on the horizon. Nikolai Mikov joining us then and picking up the victory overall. It would be second position in category for Martin Yankov, the championship leader coming into today. And Martin, there's a lot to talk about, and first and foremost is the one that put you in the position that you're in today, the contact between you and Alexander Nikolov Jr.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate. I don't know what exactly happened. I have to see it. But yeah, Alex made a mistake. I had to cover the inside, and then just it was all over for me. And after that, I had to push really hard and destroyed my tires. So at the end, I didn't have any pace, and the guys around me were much quicker.
Well, it certainly looked like you were having to hang on in the final stages of the race there, because you had that carrot on a stick dangling in front of you in Nikolai Mikov. But crucially, Rosti Koshev was catching you hand over fist, and then you had the GT3s starting to attack around you as well. So what goes through your head in that situation, that it's practically a maelstrom behind you that you've got to try and keep behind?
Yeah, actually, it was madness because I was 2 incident points of a penalty. So even one of the GT3s pushed me a little bit on one of the corners, and I was like, "Oh, it's over for me." But it was 0x. But yeah, I think GT3 saved me at the end because Rosti was quicker, and he would have probably got the second place if they weren't there.
A get out of jail free card then for you. Road Atlanta comes along. You've still got that championship lead. So do you head to Road Atlanta with confidence, still holding that championship lead, or are you more looking over your shoulder?
Well, you see that in the beginning, I had really good pace and I was quicker than everybody. But now I think it's not the same, and everybody is picking up their pace. So I think it will be a hard fight until the end.
Well, I'm sure it will be, but of course, Martin, we hope that you have the best of luck when it comes to Road Atlanta in 7 days' time. Joining us there, of course, from second position overall here today. Third would belong to Rosti Koshev, who is here along with me. Now, Rosti, not the idealist start to the race through the opening couple of laps there with the spin on lap 1. So talk us through how you recovered through that field after that setback, which brought you back into third position.
Oh, it was a very difficult race. First of all, I have to apology to Orlin. I messed up my braking in turn 1 and hit him. So it's first of all, it's my apology. The race was very difficult. A lot of people were defending really hard. I had to push all race non-stop to recover. But it was fun. I can say it was fun.
Well, it looked like everyone struggled out there. Of course, Martin had his issue with Alexander Nikolov Jr. Jr. had himself his contact. Alex Stefanov had internet issues here today. It was a case where nobody, I think, really, except for Nikolai Mikov, had a perfect race to go and speak with. So making the best out of a bad situation, do you feel like you maybe got lucky today that everyone else had some struggles out there, or do you feel like it was one of those races where you look back at it and you go, well, you know, there was a lot of pace that needed to be there to get back into the position that you were at?
Well, I think it's both. I got lucky for the mistakes everyone else had, and at the same time, I had really good pace. I was really hoping to get to fight for the win here. So it's kind of both.
Either way, though, you're still within touching distance of the championship lead. You've got Road Atlanta coming up very soon. And so when you're looking at the limited opportunities that are left to try and extend or get back and get closer to those that are around you, how much confidence do you walk into that next round of the championship with?
Well, I've driven the track quite a lot, so I think it's a good track. I'm good at it. So I'm hoping it's another fight for podium and of course the win. By
Well,
far, so the championship, I unfortunately wouldn't be able to drive at Le Mans. I wouldn't be able to be here, so it's kind of over for me. But it was a great season. It will be a great season as well.
well, it's a great shame to hear that, Rosti, because you've been battling so well all season. But we'll wish you the best of luck for Road Atlanta in 7 days' time. And at the end of your season, hopefully you'll get the results that you want. So Rostislav Koshev there joining us with a third place finish overall. And that is going to wrap up your SimGear press conference brought to you by simgear.bg, which please, if you haven't had the chance already, you can get some amazing sim racing gear over there and just head over to the website, which you can see there on your screen. But that will be that in terms of racing action here from Circuit of the Americas. It does now mean that we eye ourselves up to Road Atlanta, which will be the 6th round of the championship, and it's not a million miles away. So make sure you stay with us, of course, with Pitlane.TV to keep your eyes focused on that. But from the entire team that has brought this show over to you and the amazing racing action that we've had, my name is Jake Sperry. This has been an important championship round in every single facet. For the first time in 4 races, Vladislav Shopov is now defeated. Venceslav Raichinov finds himself on the top then with that, but still a large gap to go and a team's championship that's looking more and more in the back pocket of the negative Delta by Bueller's team. You look around at GT4, as close as it gets still. Nikolai Mikov starts to walk towards a title push, but they are still there behind them. Martin Yankov doing everything he needed to in damage limitation in second. Rosti Koshev just unable to make an extra push out there. But crucially, GT3 AM continues to be the category that remains the closest, continues to be the one where you have all sorts happening around it. Andreev does increase his margin by 2, but crucially, Joris Ooms is still there. Maxim Dimitrov can still make something happen, and there is Road Atlanta on the horizon where Andreev has never raced before. And now the next question is, what is his challenge going to be as a championship leader? Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next time we are with you as we head to Brazelton, Georgia and Road Atlanta.